statement.
We-
Kurt, do you want to read that?
Yes, I
off?
can. We promise to provide a supportive environment where unique learning experiences empower all for their chosen life adventure.
Thank you. Are there any additional items for the agenda? If not, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
That's Kelly Heitkamp. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Tim Burke. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Recognition of visitors in open forum. We don't have anybody signed up. Reports and presentations. Student School Board Representative report. Erin.
So me, Danny, and Mr. Stump have basically finalized our little, what is it called? Like a Google,
Yeah, student survey.
student survey, and it's like based off, like how students, their attitudes towards the school, so like how they feel, like their attitudes towards the school, and then like staff, and then their peers. Yeah, classes, I guess.
This is one of the goals in the strategic plan is to survey our stakeholders. So we've worked a couple meetings here on creating that form, and Danny and Aaron have given great insights. Again, a lot of those areas are covered in SEL, whether it be responsible decision making or self-awareness or social awareness. They're going to pilot it with our student council. At the next meeting, we'll get their feedback and answers and then deploy that out to the entire student body, probably 2 or 3 times every year, so starting here in January.
I think that's it.
Any questions for Erin? Okay, thank you. 6B, Superintendent report.
Real quick, I feel like I'll tell you, this is what I know on Monday, November 16th at 5:30, and things will change. There's some things that have not changed, though. The one thing that has remained constant this school year is the unbelievable dedication of our staff. And I can't tell you how impressed I am and just the inspiration that I gather is we had to switch to distance learning yesterday, and called a meeting in the middle of the day at noon on a Sunday and had 77 of our staff members there to participate and listen, and then make the transition today. So as you are well aware, we had to transition just because we could tell we had a case over the weekend that took out some staff members that are close contacts and with what we already had planned. And we had more filter in this morning of staff that couldn't be at school because of some illness and other things that there was just no way we're going to properly be able to staff our buildings. And we have been creative in the past when a teacher possibly had to be quarantined. They taught at home, and we then had to provide supervision yet in the classroom. So sometimes paras or other people are in the classroom, but that supervision wasn't going to be able to occur even with those quarantines. And so that's why we decided to do a 3-week pause for our high school and put them to distance learning. And then the hope is that we bring them back then December 7th, and we'll continue to monitor our staff absences and the spread of COVID for that. But the change from the beginning of the year till now is that the MDE is allowing schools to bring in some students who need in-person services, whether they're students on IEP or people in welding or some other special situations that we have as well. So we plan to start that November 30th, and we're just working with our staff now. But that was not going to be possible with the staff that are out, that we couldn't provide the majority of those services because most of them are in quarantine now. And then the other thing, if you haven't seen the Star Tribune later this afternoon, there is something going to come out from the governor on potentially pausing high school and youth sports. But again, I don't know anything more than what's in the Star Tribune, and have no other comments to make for that. So I'm going to pause and see if you have any questions on the transition or any other pieces of information.
I just want to echo what you said about the staff this weekend, because I think it's pretty amazing that how many people were involved this weekend trying to get those meetings together and act quickly, and for all that staff to join that meeting. I think it does show the dedication of our staff here. So thank you. Thanks to all of you.
And just so you're well aware, of course, if you can picture this, Saturday night at 8 o'clock, Sonia gets a call, somebody tested positive, call the high school principal, who then follows up with all 6 teachers, I want to say, follows up with the transportation, talks to the kids' families, and, goes down the line. This is Saturday night, starting at 8, and I think we wrapped up some of the phone calls at 9:30, 9:45, and then proceeded then on Sunday morning. So it's just what you have to do and trying to stay ahead of the game there. So it was all those teachers and Mr. Hanson and Sonia, and I know Jeremy's done it and Andrea's done it as well. Try to contact, so.
Thank you for that dedication.
The only other thing that I wanted to add is CRF funding. We should be hearing this week if we are going to receive any additional funding from Blue Earth and Waseca counties. I know there's a commissioner meeting tomorrow for Waseca, so decisions should be made there. But otherwise, that's all I have for my report.
Do you want to go into the strategic plan update?
Yes, I just got a couple pieces for you because, again, I think one of the issues with strategic plans is they get put on the shelf and we sometimes don't follow up with them. So I want to keep it at the forefront and just have a quick report. As Aaron said, we are developing the student survey. Another action step in the strategic plan is FastBridge testing all the way through 8th grade. So our 7th and 8th graders for the first time took progress monitoring tests, which we use FastBridge for, and we'll do that 3 times a year to see what kids need supports or are growing or aren't growing and how we can intervene. And sometimes the question asks, what are we going to do with that data? And right now, we don't have too many extra staff that can provide supports, but I might be coming to you next year or something that's at least going to give us some data of saying, here's where some kids are at and here's where we need extra supports, and trying to figure out a way to provide it. So, but we didn't have that data before, and the MCAs aren't necessarily intended for that purpose. We implemented standards-based education reporting at the elementary for the first time at the end of the quarter. So there's a ton of work by the elementary staff, and I know Claudia and Mike had put in a lot of time there as well. We are still moving forward with our curriculum review cycle, and ELA is looking like we're going to have to do that next year, and we're going through this science curriculum review cycle this year to make sure we're aligned with those updated standards. And then the last piece is just move this world implementation that aligns with our social and emotional learning. So things continue to get done in the strategic plan, and I will continue to update you as we go forward.
Anybody have any questions on the superintendent report or the strategic plan? Okay. Go on to budget then.
2 things in the budget. You can see the enrollment is remaining pretty steady, and we added a couple more elementary students today. And then the second piece of that is just compensatory. And I don't know if you've seen from MSBA and other reports, compensatory is really based upon our free and reduced lunch students. And this year with the meals being free, a lot of school districts are seeing that people aren't applying. And so Wendy has worked tirelessly on communicating with families, and we still have about probably 20 families that we're just contacting who have qualified in the past, but we just want to get them up to speed because there's, of course, benefits for funding for our district, but there's also some benefits for them. So we think we're about the same as where we are this year. Remember, from last year to this year, we took a little bit of a drop. But as of right now, we try to maintain the funding from this year is what it looks like, which I don't think many districts can say, but we're still working on that project and have some phone calls to make.
Thanks, Wendy.
Yeah, thank you. All right, any questions on the budget?
Where did the 2 new students come from?
A neighboring district who ended up going distance learning at the elementary, and yeah, and And Tim, I've shared with you, but it's probably good if anybody's listening to this presentation, that I think one of the things I said to our staff, and I've shared with some of you, is that we're going to do everything possible to keep our elementary students in person. And it's just a necessity, because distance learning is really hard, especially when you talk about the pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, first grade, and to send them home it would be really difficult. And I think with what we have in place and the structures and hopefully with the staffing, that we're going to keep them in place. But I know that was the reason.
Any other questions?
Kurt, in regards to, with our elementary, just with our kids, with our high school, 7th through 12th being out with distance learning, in that 3-week period of time when things are rising, and I'm in agreement with you that we need to have our children, their elementary kids in, but have we thought about moving some of those elementary kids into the high school classrooms, just kind of spread them out at all throughout our building, since we have half of it won't be used for 3 weeks?
To answer your question, no, just because it just happened on Sunday, and I would say Jeremy and I had some other preliminary discussions about, how we can better separate kids, but no, to move some classrooms, and we, that creates some staffing as soon as you start
Yeah.
splitting kids, and our elementary teachers, especially our special education, one of the things that we did well is that those paras, last year when we went distance learning, and even at the start of this year, we kept those paras with the high school students, because they're the ones that need support as well. So we can't just take the paras from the high school and just move them down to the elementary, and those teachers advocated that we make sure we keep them. So it becomes a little bit of a staffing thing too.
Gotcha.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, we'll move to number 7, the approval of the consent agenda. As always, you can pull anything out. Does anyone have any clarifying questions? Okay, if not, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
That's Tim Johnson. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
That's Kelly Heitkamp. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Old business. Second reading of policies with substantial changes. Does anybody have any questions, concerns, or anything regarding those? Okay. Now we'll move on to truth and taxation. Will take place at the study session on December 7th at 6:01 p.m. located here. Any questions regarding that, or any comments?
I will make one quick comment. Again, study session's at 5:30. This is at 6:01 for the truth and taxation. The study session will include 2 things. We just got the audit back today, so Matt's going to do a presentation of that, and then the world's best workforce. So it'll be 2 agenda items for the work session.
If by chance we have to not have the meeting here, is that truth and taxation, can we do that via Zoom or Google?
I don't know the answer to that question. I know there's some laws around it, so
Yeah.
yeah, I'll look into it.
Good question. Any other questions? Okay, number 9A. Approve Minnesota State High School League Form A resolution. Did you want to talk about that before we make a motion or anything? No? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the Minnesota State High School League?
Make a motion to approve the Minnesota High School League form.
That's Kelly Heitkamp. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Tim Elke, and this will be a roll call. So Wendy, take it away.
Cahill,
Yes.
Heitkamp,
Yep.
Kane, Elke,
Yes.
Size,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
All right, motion passes 7-0. 9B, approve adult basic literacy education consortium agreement. Do you want to?
Yeah, I can
cover
real
that
quick
all?
introduce these two. B and C, we've belonged to this consortium since 2011. We haven't really used it. And by state statute, I guess we need to have an agreement saying all these school districts belong to them. So one is the establishing the cooperative and the other is just the agreement. And it doesn't cost us money, but it allows some programming. And talking to some other districts, we could utilize this more, especially when you think about adult basic education or GED. And one of the things that sort of hit home is that for any of our community members, sometimes it's better to go outside of the community to get your GED, and you might have some stigma if you provide it within, in this case, inside our school building. So there's some advantages that I know Andrea will look into and see if we can, increase our offerings for adult basic education.
Kurt, do you know, have we ever been, because on, I think it was item C there, it says it's zero cost for us unless they run into some sort of thing and then they can come back and charge. Have we ever been charged that you know of?
No, we've never been charged.
Okay. And do we budget anything for it in case they charge us?
No, and I don't, it doesn't appear like they're going to. It's just one of these agreements that we need to be a part of for the adult basic ed, but I don't
Okay.
foresee any expenses.
I don't remember hearing us getting charged, but I just figured I'd ask since we're looking at it, so.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, do we have a motion to approve the adult basic literacy education consortium agreement?
So moved.
That's Tim Johnson. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Tim Burke. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. 9C, do we have a motion to approve the school board resolution establishing an ABE cooperative?
Make a motion to approve the school board resolution establishing an ABE cooperative.
That's Kelly Heitkamp. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Tim Burke. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. 9D, approve the fiscal year 21 budget update. Do you want to speak to that at all? Okay. Yep.
This isn't going to be long. I know we ran this budget update by our finance committee. It's not necessary that we do it, but I think there was just so many variables right now here at the beginning of the year. It was important just to get a foundation of where we're sitting. Matt and I didn't go through every line saying we're down in student fees by this much or up in or down in transportation by this much. We sort of took off our big ticket items, the new CRF funding, the new major CRF expenses, and sort of saw how we are. So that's the purpose of this. And then I can real quick talk you through just briefly a little bit of this, but first page is enrollments, and we did strategically budget low, and we're higher than what we've budgeted. So we've added some, 10 students back to our budget. Still is not exactly where we're at, so there's some good news there. But we did add some back into this budget projection. The third page, of course, then the basic formula increased if we added some students back in, and you'll see the federal increased, and that's where the CRF money and the ESSER and GEAR money also came in there. The one point that I'll point out here in the federal money, as you remember some of my communications before, we had a rural education program that we received funding for in fiscal year 16 and 17, but for some reason expended it, but never recouped those funds from the federal government. So Matt and I received an email beginning of this year saying, hey, this money's out there. And so Matt went through the process, and we got $40,000 back from the federal government that we should have got before, but we just reclaimed now. So basically just goes into our general fund. So that's why you have those increases in the revenue in the federal. And then there was some shifting for supplies in this case. I know we've bought some snow removal equipment and did some other things. I think the iPads or the Chromebooks got changed from capital to supply, so that's why you see the supply budget has increased, and the majority of that is just offset by our CRF funding. And this page just sort of shows what we project the ending balance to be, and it's probably better highlighted on this last page where you can see right now in the general fund, the original budget that we thought we were gonna end at 3.9, now we think we're gonna end somewhere around, 4,021,000, so it's about a $40,000 increase, which that's probably pretty much attributed to that REAP money and that we've got. But you can see, I think my big takeaway is that we're gonna, for right now, we're sitting okay, and we'll see what the second half of the year brings. But I think this is just a check-in point to see where we're at.
Okay. Any questions from anyone?
Just on the last page, Kurt, and it's not the dollars here, but just a general. So with all the stuff that we're doing for food service with meals that go out to the kids that are distant learning and stuff, how is that all still working? I mean, I'm not talking dollars wise, I'm just talking, Tuesday night they were supposed to, and, we call off school, and then Wednesday, is everything still moving along good?
It is. Sarah and her staff are phenomenal. There's a couple points for you to, as a board, to know though. Between fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 20, remember you've always had a high food service fund balance. And so last year we actually decreased about 65,000. Some of that is some of the stuff that we had to do extra. Remember, coaches worked in the food service at the end, and we had to do some transportation. So we charged food service to all those. So Matt and I are gonna go back tomorrow and see exactly what made up that 65,000. But as far as this year goes, the federal government reimburses schools for a free lunch at a higher price than what we charge our own kids for paying into it if they're not on free lunch, if that makes sense. So but we are seeing a decrease, of course, with kids not at school for participation in our lunch program. Sarah has done a great job. We're starting to provide meals for those and really target those families that have to quarantine for 14 days. And so she gave out some meals this morning and is consistently just being flexible with parents. But we are seeing a decrease in our participation, but trying the best to get the word out on the program.
Okay. That's gotta be a major headache for her.
Yeah, it is, and her and her
They're
staff
phenomenal.
are outstanding.
I appreciate too, you and Matt revising this budget. I don't think we need to do it yearly, but I think when it's something special as in regards to building projects and whatnot, or COVID, I think it does make sense for the school district to do, so.
So, I got a question. So do we know if distance learning costs us more money or less money, one way or the other, if we continue to do this throughout the year? Maybe not having the athletics and stuff like that. I mean, is there a significant difference or not?
The question is if distance learning costs us more money. And I can just tell you off the top of my head, of course, we've had to buy hotspots for kids, and there's some expense there that will be ongoing, which is fine. So there's some of that. There's probably some other things that we have to buy, possibly some more books or some more supplies. It's not a huge expense. On the other side, on the saving money side, I would say we probably don't have to hire as many subs, because even when a teacher is sick, usually they'll just teach from home then, or put their lesson plans on and not do in-person instruction for the day without hiring a sub. So we probably don't have that expense. It's probably not. It's not a huge expense or savings either way.
So it's no concern, either
No.
way.
And I'll just go to this board has been phenomenal in saying we have a savings account for a reason. So if we have to spend money on something that's best for kids right now, let's just go ahead and do it. So I appreciate that.
Well, if there's one area that's getting affected by COVID, it's the athletics and the gate fees and all that stuff, so.
All right, any other questions? If not, do we have a motion to approve the fiscal year 21 budget update?
Make a motion to approve the fiscal year 21 budget update.
That's Kelly Heidkamp. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
That's Tim Johnson. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. 9E, approve school calendar change of December 23rd, 2020 to a no-school day. Do you want to speak to that, Kurt?
I can real quick. Again, I just have to credit our staff. You see a lot of school districts, when they're in the hybrid learning model, taking a day of full-time distance learning and using part of that day to plan and to lesson plan, basically. And our teachers, have said we want to spend the most time that we can with kids. And while I appreciate that and I love our staff for that, I know it wears on them because they're trying to meet with kids during their prep time and other times too. So I think we're over by 7 days already in the state minimum of 165 days that we have to be in school for a school year, and we're at 172, and the state gives us some additional planning days. So I consider this just one more day before the holiday break, because otherwise they're getting out on December 24th as their first day off. And just, again, to have some separation for our staff's mental health, I would say.
Any questions on that? All right, do we have a motion to approve the school calendar change to December 23rd as a no-school day?
I'll make a motion to approve school calendar change of December 23rd to a no-school day.
That's Tim Burke. Do we have a second? That's Kendra Hayne. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. 9F, approve PSEO agreement with South Central College.
You saw the Riverland last month, and now South Central, which I just found it odd that they wanted to do this since 2017, but we're going to be the first district to actually follow through and get it done, and it's just a win-win for both institutions, so.
Well, thank you for pursuing that. Appreciate that. Any questions on that? All right, if not, do we have a motion to approve the PSEO agreement with South Central College?
I'll make a motion to approve the PSEO agreement with South Central College.
That's Tim Elke. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
That's Tim Johnson. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Number 10, approve resolution accepting donations. We have Cub Foods as the donor of notebooks, folders, pencils, scissors, glue, and crayons. Madeline Regier, school supplies for the ag classes. The Olchenbruns family, officer t-shirts for FFA. Minnesota Department of Human Services, $3,000 grant installment for SAC and wraparound funding. The Bulldog Backers Association of $1,760.33 for the Gaga Ball Pit.
The one I will highlight is, again, our backers are so supportive, and it's the FFA's teacher, the Ultraman's family, who donates his money, and then the other one is Andrea Kronbach. Part of her job is to apply for grants, so she did receive, this is $3,000, but we'll get 3 installations of it, so it's actually $9,000 for our community
Nice.
Nice.
education program.
That's awesome. Any other questions? All right, do we have a motion to approve the resolution accepting donations?
Make a motion to approve the donations as presented.
That's Kelly Heidkamp. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Tim Burke, and this is a roll call. So Wendy-
Kane,
Yes.
Heitkamp,
Yep.
Cahill. Yes. Elke,
Yes.
Size,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
All right, motion passes 7-0, and many thanks to all those donors. 11, upcoming meetings. December 7th is the work session at 5:30. After that is the truth and taxation hearing at 6:01. And December 21st is our regular board meeting, followed by the Activities Committee meeting. Anything else? If not, we are adjourned at 6 o'clock.
Thanks, Warren.
Okay.